Wealthy Redditors, what are some luxury goods or services that you enjoy that are mostly unknown or unavailable to the average consumer? I'm not rich, but I was babysat by a very wealthy couple when I was younger. 1. Pretty much never bought off the rack. Everything was tailor-made, one of a kind. 2. Personalized every freaking thing. 3. Everywhere suddenly delivers. 4. Think of an unpleasant task. Scooping dog poop, cleaning out the pool, cleaning the house, folding the laundry, no matter what it was, they had a guy for that. Once you fly first class, it's pretty difficult to choose anything else, especially for long distance international. It is a completely different experience from the minute you arrive at the airport to the minute you leave. No lines first of all, plus lounges, gourmet food, drinks, everyone treats you like a king, seats more comfortable than your living room chair, etc. Flying on a private jet. Notes are, no long walk or checking baggage. We park right beside the jet. The pilot loads our bags and we take off. Growing up, my family was pretty poor. My dad was in med school and was moonlighting just to pay for a crappy apartment. In the time he had off, he would take us to a local park where we would share a small thing of olives. He really couldn't afford anything else and was over $200k in debt. Once he finished his specialty training and joined a fellowship of doctors, man, that's when things pulled a 180. This happened when I was 14. By the time I graduated high school, we had a nanny, a personal assistant, 2 different sets of cleaning ladies, a gardener, a boat, custom built house, 5 vehicles and an RV. Now that I'm 25, I love to visit and house sit, as his whiskey collection is amazing. Generally all I do when I'm there is sip on bourbon scotch and watch Netflix movies in the theater. Helicopter skiing. Nothing is more amazing flying around in the mountains finding untracked powder with 4 of your best buddies in a Bell 407. Not ridiculously expensive, but not cheap. I was best friends with a girl in elementary school whose parents were extremely wealthy. I don't even know what her dad did, but her mom stayed at home, so it must have been something good. I got tons of benefits whenever we would go out with them. It was really weird for me as my parents were not wealthy, just middle class, average. Here are some things that I thought were awesome. Their country club had tears. I always thought this was silly because it was super expensive to be a member there to begin with, so wasn't anyone rich. Anyway, their pool had certain hours. The highest tier member who pays the most and are more privileged get the better hours in the pool and the jacuzzi. The local grocery store would deliver groceries to them without even having that service. They spent so much money there, only had 1 kid, that the manager did it as a convenience. Her dad could park anywhere. They might as well have given him a handicap sticker. There was 2 restaurants I know of that would let them rent out back rooms or close off sections just for their dinner. Not a party, just the 3 of them. Sometimes 4 with me. Toys R Us let her dad come in by himself to shop an hour early before Black Friday sales because he had a credit card with them and they knew he was going to use it. I remember her gifts were always extravagant. The town pool, which was much larger than the country clubs, let them rent out the entire pool for her birthday party. I don't remember any other kid doing that, or at least anyone who could afford to. Her dad always got the best seats with catering for sporting events. Doesn't matter what team or sport, it was catered. I am not personally wealthy, but my family is well off and I get to reap some of the benefits. That being said, my dad is always going to concerts and sporting events, so if he asks me to come, without hesitation I'll go because it's always a big event. Limo, nice dinner, drinks on him all night, awesome seats, and a hotel room if necessary. Also heated bathroom floor. According to my mom, being able to send her children to the college or their choice without any loans or me to have to work a full-time job was the best moment of her life. Same here. I'm incredibly grateful that I haven't had to pay a dime, and I haven't had to take out loans at all. Thanks mom and dad. I'm close friends with someone who is crazy rich. He's pretty cool but isn't exactly responsible with his money. I guess it doesn't matter that much since he has a ton of it. I guess the coolest thing is getting something when you want it. You know when you see some cool expensive thing and you're like, oh, that would be really cool to have but I can't afford it. Well, this guy can afford it and he always buys it. He saw some intricate modern treehouse on Reddit once and just straight up hired a guy to build one in his yard the next day. Some cool new Mercedes car came out and within a few weeks he had one. If he wants something, he gets it, even if it isn't entirely necessary. I don't mean to criticize him though. He's a super nice and charitable guy. I'm quite fond of my tiny giraffe. I've read many posts and I want to point out the best benefit of wealth is this: time. You get to control life's most valuable resource, your own time. Poor people have to sell so much of their life to maintain a basic standard of living. They have very little time to focus on actual self-improvement and forget about luxuries like proper diet quality, medical care, or time for proper exercise. Aside from the luxuries, the happiest people on earth are the ones who get to control their lives, like the small business owners or artists who live meagerly but pretty much scheduled their lives to be what they want it to be. If you look at what people who are rich buy, like the best foods, personal trainers and doctors to keep them young, they are essentially purchasing more time. It is irreplaceable and you have no idea how much you really have. That's why time is so valuable. When Atlanta was booming in the 1990s, I happened to know many people with lots of money, executives in multinational corporations and such. They had lots of money, but they spent 80+ hours a week working themselves into their graves. Their wives and kids were rich, doing whatever they wanted whenever they wanted, but those guys were really just high-paid slaves. I guess this doesn't address your question, so let me redirect this way. The most valuable thing rich people get is more life and more freedom in life. I don't want to brag, but I got a guy that delivers mail to my house every day. I got a mobile device that gets mails wirelessly and displays them on a color screen. Just so you can imagine my social circle, said device connected me with an African prince that will send me a fortune. I'm not rich, but my dad owns an Italian restaurant, so I can get pizza, pasta, drinks, ice cream whenever I want, and I can take my friends to the restaurant to eat free pizza, and I have awesome B-day parties. You are pizza rich. Your assets are in goods with realistic trade values for children age 4 to 16, up to 19 if there's an arcade. Yachts. Yachts are very fun. I did the theory course for the Yacht Master Everything Less Than Ocean qualification here, but I can't afford all of the practical taught time to finish it. It's a bugger to find a place that'll do night hours. Private banking wealth management services are pretty great. It's like having a money concierge, or, really, just a regular concierge. Those people will do anything if you need them to. Helicopter and private jet on standby to take you to your place in the country south of France on a whim. Tables at restaurants and clubs at a moment's notice, which are normally impossible to get into. My favorite by far is my driver. Personal shoppers by far and above are something I could not imagine living without. They can have items tailored to fit, literally scour the globe for obscure and or limited edition items. In my case, this is especially necessary because of my shoe size. Flying via private charter is pretty superb as well. I've only experienced it a handful of times, but it's unreal and makes travel pretty painless. I am not wealthy, and I don't mean to brag, but we just got some of those fancy corn on the cob holders. And all this time, I've been holding my corn with my fingers, like a loser. Yeah, well, my wife will give me BJs whenever I want, so I got that going for me. Entire thread. You are the one I'm most jealous of. I work for wealthy people. Learned of one today I had heretofore been unaware of. There is a service that keeps your clothing and sends it anywhere in the world you are or are going to be, pressed and ready to go. Trust of random people. I know this sounds stupid, but as a white, upper-class 18-year-old who can put on preppy clothing and BS my way out of most situations, it is incredible to see how many people trust you right off the street. Son of two very educated but not very wealthy parents, teachers. Here, the benefits of being well dressed and well spoken don't end. I'm 21 and it helps me in job interviews, getting dates. Seriously, every part of life is easier. Well, I don't mean to brag, but I have 2 couches in my apartment. I know all of you one couchers are probably wondering what a man could possibly do with multiple couches, but let me tell you. Going back to one couch just isn't an option once you've become accustomed to life with 2 couches. Not me, but my friend's dad is reasonably rich and he owns this amazing villa in Algarve and we get to go every year. It's by far the most luxurious place I have ever stayed in and probably will be for the rest of my life. A bunch of celebrities own villas in the same complex. It's mostly English football players, but Van Morrison owns the one next to it. I'm friends with a few billionaires at college. Once we stayed at one kid's penthouse apartment in Nye. Obviously everything was beautiful and luxurious, but the thing that struck me the most was the art. Klein, Richter, Holzer, just on the living room wall. I walked around there trying not to cry. It was so unreal. When you have 6 figures in the bank, the people that you talk to when you call your bank are almost always American. At least in America, and will try to get you to invest your money. Once you have big bucks in the bank, they treat you like a king. Bro, I am just happy to finally afford some new t-shirts without holes. They are just plain t-shirts, but at least each one is a different color. I got that going for me, which is nice. It's funny, I know guys who are moderately well off by average standards, and they appear to live the life. Tables at clubs, champagne everywhere, only high-end brand and goods etc. And then I know properly wealthy people, think $200 plus, who don't give a crap about any of that stuff, but then will casually buy a new £5 million second house. Not rich, but worked for one of the wealthiest people in Toronto. He built a synagogue, then a while later, built himself a luxury condominium across the street from it, because walking on Shabbos kind of sucks. Let me make it clear, the fair-sized 10-floor or so luxury condo, where the cheapest, 1000 SQFT apartment sold for $300k was originally built to house his guests. It was only ages afterwards that it was ever sold to the public. His penthouse was 17000 FT2, complete with a pool, private bar and so on. Elevator had keyed entry to his floor, and I rarely went up. My job was looking like this place had security. I assume my 6 feet 4 inches self made it pretty convincing. He had weekly deliveries of a case of wine, which was not cheap. One of the few times I did go up, it looked like a classical age temple, inlaid marble floor and walls, statues everywhere, and hallway so big you could host a basketball game there. Framing was adorned with gold, and the ceiling was at least 12 feet high. The room I'm sitting in now was smaller than the private lobby in front of his door. It was an interesting contrast. The people who lived there were absurdly rich, and were nice and kind, offering food whenever they had parties. The landlord told me to drink water from the bathroom faucet when I asked what to do on hot days. I guess people who work for their money have more self-respect than those who just pretend to. You have been visited by the beach doggo. You shall be blessed with good weather all summer if you subscribe to AskReddit. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.